On the evening of October 21st, 2025, the skies over Phuket, Thailand, turned a deep gray, accompanied by a gentle breeze blowing from the southwest. Rain began falling around 8 p.m. local time, initially light, then intensifying into heavy rain and continuing until the early hours of the morning. The Thai Meteorological Department recorded more than 220 millimeters of rainfall in less than 10 hours, making that night one of the rainiest in the past decade in southern Thailand. This heavy rain triggered flash floods that hit three main districts of Phuket: Kamala, Cathu, and Muang. In Kamala, water levels began rising around 2:30 a.m. The Bang Yai Canal, which runs through the area, overflowed, flooding streets such as Soi Fantasea, Soi Olalla, and the area in front of the Thiwaratri Hotel. Residents living along the canal were awakened by the roar of water and the sound of submerged vehicle alarms. In less than an hour, the water level reached the knees of adults, forcing dozens of families to evacuate to higher ground. The Kamala Administrative Office was also submerged, hampering initial disaster response coordination. In Muang District, flooding affected the area around Wichitsongkram School and Kata Beach. Roads to the school were cut off, and ground floor classrooms were submerged up to 60 centimeters. Classes were suspended, and the school was temporarily converted into an evacuation center. In the Kata Beach tourist area, water entered hotel lobbies and restaurants, causing damage to electronics and furniture. Tourists staying in smaller hotels were forced to move to higher ground, while tour operators canceled their scheduled trips for the day. Kathu district was the worst affected. The intersection of Patong Hospital, Patong Hill, Patong Police Station, and Phetkasem Road were all submerged. Severe traffic jams resulted as vehicles stalled and roads turned into rivers. Ambulances and emergency vehicles struggled to reach patients, and Patong Hospital had to evacuate patients from the basement to the upper floors. Patong Police Station also experienced operational disruptions as the archives and communications center were flooded. The Phuket provincial government immediately activated the emergency command center at 5 a.m. The Phuket governor, in an 8 a.m. press conference, stated that this flood was one of the worst since the 2018 floods. He instructed all relevant agencies to cooperate in pumping out water, clearing drains, and distributing aid. Teams from the National Disaster Management Department, NDDM, were deployed, along with local volunteers, the military and humanitarian organizations, to assist with evacuations, establish relief posts, and distribute supplies. On social media, the hashtag Phuket Flood 2025 trended nationally. Residents shared photos and videos of the flooded conditions, from roads turned into rivers to children swimming in their yards. Many expressed anger and frustration that similar flooding had occurred repeatedly, yet no long-term solutions had been implemented. Some environmental activists highlighted development projects that had narrowed water catchment areas and the lack of maintenance of canals and drainage channels. The tourism sector, the backbone of Phuket's economy, has been hit hard. Phuket International Airport experienced operational disruptions due to disrupted road access. Several domestic and international flights were delayed, and arriving tourists had to wait hours to reach their hotels. Tour operators reported reservation cancellations and a decline in tourist numbers, particularly from Europe and East Asia. The Tourism Association of Thailand estimated losses from the floods at over 80 million baht and urged the government to expedite the development of flood warning systems in tourist areas. On the infrastructure side, the floods have reignited public discussion about the vulnerability of Phuket's drainage system to climate change and urbanization. Canals built in the 1980s are no longer able to accommodate the drastically increased volume of water. Rapid urbanization, especially in tourist areas, is shrinking green spaces and exacerbating the risk of flooding. Meteorologists attribute the increasingly erratic rainfall patterns and increased storm intensity to global warming, which is strengthening the monsoon system and shortening the natural drainage cycle. Residents like Samchai, a carpenter in Kamala, said his house has been flooded 3 times in the past 2 years. He hopes the government will soon build a permanent embankment and widen the existing canal. On Kata Beach, restaurant owner Nguyen lamented the damage to kitchen equipment and food supplies, which has resulted in millions of baht in losses. He hopes for compensation or capital assistance from the government to restart his business. Meanwhile, the Ban Khao Lak area in Takua Pa district, Phang Nga province, Thailand, was hit by a sudden and devastating flash flood, sweeping away tourist areas, residential areas, and key infrastructure. Heavy rain that began early morning, with an intensity of more than 180 millimeters in 6 hours, triggered a torrential downpour from the Khao Lak Mountains surrounding the area. The water descending from the slopes carried mud, rocks, and debris, turning the streets into muddy rivers that rushed into the tourist town center. The Bang Ha area in Khuk Khak subdistrict became the flashpoint. Water overflowed from a normally calm creek, crossing Phetkasem Road, the main route connecting Fang Na with other provinces in southern Thailand. In less than an hour, the water had inundated Khao Lak Centre, a shopping and entertainment center popular with local and foreign tourists. Hundreds of people were dining and shopping at the time, and panic ensued when the water suddenly surged into the building. Some people were trapped inside shops and restaurants, while others fled upstairs or to nearby hills for safety. The flooding caused extensive damage to shops, hotels, and tourist facilities. Power was cut off in some areas, and communications were disrupted. Hotels such as the Khao Lak Palm Beach Resort and small ghost houses along the beach suffered ground floor damage, forcing tourists to evacuate to safer locations. Phetkasem Road was completely paralyzed, with vehicles stranded and some swept away by the current. Rescue teams from the Phang Na Provincial Disaster Management Department were immediately deployed, assisted by the military and local volunteers, to evacuate stranded residents and tourists. According to official reports, more than 300 people were evacuated from the affected area, including local residents and foreign tourists from Germany, Japan, and Australia. There were no reports of casualties, but several people suffered minor injuries from slipping or being hit by debris. The local government set up an emergency post at Khuk Khak School and activated a public kitchen to provide food and clean water. Medical assistance was also provided by Takua Pa Hospital and a mobile clinic. The flash flood sparked a national discussion about disaster preparedness in Thailand's tourist areas. Environmentalists stated that deforestation on the slopes of the Khao Lak Mountains and development that neglected spatial planning had exacerbated the flood risk. Narrow and poorly maintained waterways were unable to accommodate the large volume of water, while green spaces that serve as water catchment areas were diminishing. Rapid urbanization in Ban Khao Lak, driven by the growth of the tourism sector, had converted the natural landscape to concrete and asphalt, accelerating surface water flow and increasing the potential for flash floods. Within days of the flood, conditions began to improve. Water levels gradually receded, and cleanup teams began working to clear away the mud and debris carried by the floodwaters. The local government promised to conduct an infrastructure audit and accelerate the canal revitalization project. They also planned to expand cooperation with international institutions to build a more sophisticated weather monitoring system, including rain radar and groundwater sensors. On the community side, local initiatives emerged, such as public kitchens, health posts, and donation campaigns. Students from Phuket University directly assisted residents, while a digital community raised funds to purchase water pumps and generators. This solidarity demonstrates that even though formal systems are not yet fully prepared, community strength remains the backbone of disaster preparedness. The Phuket and Ban Khao Lak floods serve as stark reminders that the challenges of climate change and urbanization cannot be ignored. A systemic approach combining technology, community participation, and policy reform is needed to build city resilience to disasters. Central and local governments must have the courage to conduct thorough audits of development projects, strengthen spatial planning regulations, and ensure that all new developments take flood and climate change risks into account.